I think we need to use the word doozy a little bit more often. What do you think? What's your verdict on the word doozy? I don't want to see that word get phased out. But great morning, everybody. Today we are going to have a great topic. And it's controversial, um, only controversial because of the fact that this topic is going to awaken you, which is a good thing, hopefully, right? Awaken you to something that is probably running on autopilot in the realm of our want, need, and desire to have friendship in our lives and what we think that that equates to. Great morning, Bear Sage. Great morning, full of fun, Lori. And yeah, we don't know how to spell doozy. You can spell doozy any way you want. Okay. So great morning. I called this today the paradox of friendship. And what we're going to be discussing is how potentially the idea and practice of not needing friends could be the actual very catalyst that draws the right ones closer to you. So it's kind of like one of these situations where by not doing something, which is kind of a very Buddhist thing, um, intentionally not doing something, because you can learn what I'm about to share with you and do it as a strategy to attract people into your life. It won't work as well as if you actually get to this place where you recognize you don't need something in order to be happy. So, this is one of my favorite topics in any sense, where we look at the idea of something that we're always striving for and driving towards, but then losing sight of the fact that the very idea that that outside force is going to be the catalyst and is a precursor to you being happy, whole, and full in your life, to live an extraordinary life, to have a good life experience. The awakening that you're placing all of your cards, all of your eggs in one basket. Because if that doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen the way you'd like it, well, then you don't get to live an extraordinary life. It's kind of like the topic of the suck, you know. We know that the obstacle's the way, but we also can awaken and recognize that for the most part, life does suck. Primarily, there's more suck than fun and reward. So I woke up one day in that sense and I said, well, then I'm going to spend most of my life sucking. So I might as well learn how to embrace and enjoy and revel in the suck. So great morning, everybody. Great morning, Nanette Hill, Jim Katzman. There's Cosmic Sushi. Hey, Cosmic Sushi. My daughter and I, she had a jujitsu match. So I'm still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Um, and she did really well. But to reward her, because she loves to mac out on sushi. So we were thinking about you yesterday because we went to a sushi place. And great morning, Alan Schur. Great morning, everybody. So let's get into this. As a reminder, I'm coming to you live on Substack right now. That's what you're seeing. But I'm also in my podcast studio. So we're going to be editing this for the podcast, the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast, which has become a full-time job and one that I absolutely love. And I found a way to link my passion of podcasting and, healing myself by taking some of the ideas that I have and sharing them with you and paying them forward, you know, in my attempt to become self-actualized. And we're going to clean this up and that this will be a podcast episode. So I say this all the time, but if there's some good context and some questions and you become part of this conversation on Substack, I will leave that in the podcast and kind of give you a shout out there. So feel free to say positive things and make big distinctions or even challenge me on something. Because this hat that says which is the title of my next book that I'm working on, it stands for haven't made up my mind yet. So even if it sounds like I'm giving some sort of an opinion on something, all I'm sharing is what I can see and how I perceive things at this time. But what I'm really interested in is just allowing myself to think for myself. And part of that is whenever I have somebody dispute or challenge anything that I say, I think it's a blessing. It's awesome because I'm open to anything that makes sense. I'm not just trying to help you I'm not trying to brainwash anybody into thinking the way I do. I just like to entertain looking at things from all aspects. So if you hear me share something that sounds like an opinion, what you're hearing is just the way I see it at this time. So great morning, Chris. Great morning, Kalpana. Good to see everybody. So this is called The Paradox of Friendship, and its subtitle is How Not Needing Friends Draws the Right Ones Closer. This is a really, really fun topic. And it's going to entertain the idea of looking at the person that has learned to walk alone and be happy and fulfilled and feel whole without needing anything else. In this space right now, I don't have this feeling that I need anything from the outside in order for me to be happy. I can be happy and whole and live a fulfilled life in this moment right now. And it's a constant battle because here I am doing a podcast, sharing with you, and part of my conditioned mind is hoping you like it and hoping that you agree on some sorts of things. So I have to constantly run what I call the interface response system to check myself before I wreck myself and just say, what else might be true? So I welcome you all to engage in this conversation, and I encourage you to share it out as a form of sharing with other people. And the whole premise of my work, as a reminder, is just the acknowledgement and observation that we live in a world that, for the most part, does the thinking for us, that does the persuading of our thoughts. And we have this interesting thing as a human being when we get an idea, a thought, or a feeling, we can easily think that it's us that had created it and therefore put an exclamation point at the end without recognizing that we've been conditioned and programmed by the things that we consume. And we understand that what it is that we consume with regularity ends up being what we end up assuming with regularity. So this is going to be our opportunity to get into our prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that actually is you consciously thinking, unpersuaded by the lower levels of your subconscious mind. Um, and the way that I do that is I give you a different way of looking at things, and you'll see that it makes you go, what do I think about that? And then the blessing there is you're in your prefrontal cortex and you're thinking for yourself. So let's get started. So the observation is that we spend so much of our lives searching for the right people. Think about that. And those are the ones that kind of see us. I think we all want to be seen and heard and acknowledged, but those are the ones that see us, the people that support us, a good friend, things like that, and stay through the storm. Somebody that I value is somebody that is by my side through the tough times. I also very, very much enjoy friendships that are forgiving and people that, you know, understand that people make mistakes and things like that. But here's the distinction. What if real friendship doesn't begin with finding anyone at all? So if one of your goals is to find real friendship, what if it has nothing to do with finding somebody at all? And what if it starts with learning to walk alone, right? Working on yourself, walking alone and coming to this realization that you never are actually alone in the first place. And we're going to dig into that. I see Nanette just said, I have a friend and I feel as though for a few years we've been at a turning point. She's pregnant with her second child, and we've met playing professional golf. Oh wow, you're a professional golfer! Congratulations! And she stopped playing. I've made a choice to continue playing, and I feel like some of our opinions on life and politics are getting in the way. Interesting. So that's just an observation, right? Recognize that you said, I feel. It doesn't mean that that's what is, but I think I feel means that that's a perception that you can dispute, right? Getting in the way of life. Let me see what the rest of this is. I feel like some of our opinions of politics are getting in the way of life. So I've also had a lot of people detour me from continuing to play, and this is something that you obviously love, and feel as though she's projected some of that energy on me. Isn't that interesting? And once again, there it is. I feel. She might not know this, right? So that's the whole forgive them for they know not what they do. And we'll talk about that in this session. I've taken an intentional step back but feel guilty. Okay, so guilt is an imaginary thing, right? You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't like draw a picture of it. Show me a picture of guilty, right? Um, but feel guilty about it. There's the clear the throat. And saw this topic and was hoping for some advice. So, advice, right? So, I'm not going to give you advice other than recognize that what you're sharing is what you think and feel, but it doesn't mean what is, right? Understand that. So I love this concept of what you see is what you get. That's what we've been trained to believe. Okay. But what you see is only what you get because of the way you looked at it. And remember, we have a program conditioned mind that we've acquired this whole time. It doesn't mean what actually is. So, what I would, if I was to give you any advice, is take what you just said and just go, and maybe ask what else might be true. So, maybe we don't ever really find a good friend. Perhaps the action step that we would take today, and this is something that you could do, and there's an example of something that I'll put on the podcast because I think that's great. Perhaps the action step is to become a good friend. Have you ever considered that as the first step? We spend so much time looking for stuff outside to bring into our lives. Have you ever thought of being that for somebody else and becoming attractive? We're going to talk about this magnetic pull of somebody that is just happy and confident and whole in themselves. So, most of us go through life searching for people who get us, right? That's a great feeling. You make sense to them. And that falls in the category of things like chemistry and solid foundations for friendship. So we look for friends and partners who can fill the spaces that we've left unhealed. Isn't that what we're kind of looking for? We're looking to fill, and fix things in our lives. But that search often begins from a quiet sense of lack. And there's one of the challenges with it, the subtle belief that someone out there will make us feel whole, make us feel seen, or finally understood. So, that is another interesting thing for Nanette is ask yourself, do you need these outside people or that individual that you're perceiving, there's some negative energy and things like that. Do you need them to feel whole or can you feel whole on your own? Isn't that an interesting way to look at it? Because that's the only struggle. There's a place you could be where you don't have to resent people and say, hey, screw them if they don't get me. You could just say, interesting, and leave it at that. And leave it at that. I'm going to go do me. Right. So the friendships that last, those are the ones, right? The ones that feel effortless and rooted are rarely born as a result of your pursuit and your efforts. Am I right? Things that we want typically don't come from where we're looking. They typically come from the sides. So there's got to be some sort of an energetic attraction to the real good things. I've never found what I was looking for. I feel like it almost found me. So they arise from things like alignment. They happen when two people meet and they're at what I call the friendship frequency that entails things like self-respect and not self-need. Not self-need. Now, there's also the X factor and all kinds of weird things happen in life, but this is just my observation. So the real work of finding good friends, I believe, begins in the mirror. And it's interesting because as I'm speaking to you right now, I can't see any of you. I can only see myself. So I'm looking in the mirror right now. I don't know what you're looking at. You're looking at me, but the real work begins in the mirror. So when you build a loving, honest friendship with yourself, and this is what it takes to walk alone, some other distinctions as well, you stop grasping for one outside of you. You stop auditioning for connection. Isn't that a funny way to look at what we're doing? It's kind of like an audition. A lot of people say, I don't like sales. Well, we kind of are selling ourselves in the friendship market, aren't we? So you stop needing someone else to make you feel worthy. That's one of my favorite topics. This is a great book, I think. Um, Jamie Kern Lima, who I'm going to get to meet because I'm emceeing this big show in San Diego in December, and she's one of the featured speakers, and I'm emceeing the whole show. But I love that word worthy, right? We stop grasping for things on the outside and auditioning to feel worthy. And something quiet but powerful begins to happen when you learn to do that. And that's what my hope is that this is going to help you think and acknowledge and awaken to something that you can take action with today, and that is working on the person in the mirror. It'll help your energy change, right? So think about the things that we can control. If you're being controlled by outside forces and desires and needs, then your energy is going to be a symptom and a side effect of those. But if you learn to change your own energy, well, you're going to become an irresistible magnet. So you start broadcasting a new kind of a signal. That's what we're going to talk about. One that says, I'm whole, but open. Because it doesn't mean that we're not open to outside things coming in, but we don't need them. We don't need them. And that signal calls in others who are whole as well, but open. So there's an interesting thing we're going to hit on a couple times. If you're looking for good quality people to come into your life, it begins with you being a good quality person, doesn't it? I love that. So when you attract those kinds of friends, people that are already whole, people that walk alone and don't need you as well, the real ones, life gets richer, doesn't it? So the juice becomes worth the squeeze. We're going to go out and squeeze today. But if you don't squeeze, if you don't follow through with some of the things that you say you're going to do today, and one of them could be walking alone, the reason why you won't is you'll lose sight of the value of the juice. We squeeze for the juice. But what if we squeeze and learn how to squeeze just for the squeeze? Because the right friends don't just share your laughter, they expand your capacity for laughter. They hold you accountable for your potential, and they remind you of who you are when you forget. That's what I think a good friend does. And I also create space for them to be allowed to do that. I permit it. And they probably do, hopefully, on the other side. So good friends, the value of it, the squeeze, they offer perspective when you lose sight. And they also walk beside you, not just through the sunshine, but through the storm. And they stay steady and true. So good friends are like an emotional form of oxygen. I just think that's super cool. Emotional oxygen. They give you the freedom to exhale, to be exactly who you are without the mask. I think that's the value, but this is why we seek it. So their presence alone makes life easier to navigate and also harder to quit. Isn't that what a good friend does? It makes life easier to navigate knowing that they're there, but it also makes it harder to quit. That's what I'm looking for. But even perfect friendships require some maintenance. And I think somebody right now probably is recognizing that you probably need to go make a couple more deposits than expecting withdrawals from your friends today. Because remember, that's the first step, right? B. So connection is a living thing. And like anything else, it erodes when it is neglected. That's why we have to have that maintenance. True friendship isn't effortless, by the way. It's inconvenient at times. It's intentional, though. It asks for honesty, patience, forgiveness, and a mutual commitment to keep showing up during the inconvenient times, to keep listening even when it's hard to listen. That's what a good friend does. And it requires forgiveness and second and third and fourth and fifth chances. Have you ever noticed how quick somebody gives up on you when you screw up, when you fuck something up? Is that a real friend? And if you say, no, that's not a real friend, are you a real friend? Will you give them a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chance? And this is a big part of marriage too, isn't it? But do we actually need friends? I'd love to hear what anybody says about that. Do you need friends? Because I was raised thinking that I need friends. It's like a prerequisite to having a good life. Does your happiness depend on others, other people, and other things? And this is where shiny objects come into place. We've become minimalists, like we get rid of anything that no longer applies in our life. So there's great power in the one that learns to walk alone. Are you somebody that has learned to walk alone? The man or woman who can walk alone without feeling lonely is the one who sees that they're not alone at all. And this is one of my perspectives that I'm going to give you that I kind of just observed on my own. And I'll explain why I don't ever feel alone, even when I'm walking alone. So, this is about recognizing that human separation and difference is actually an illusion. Entertain that. The idea that you and I are separate and unique from one another, I'm saying it's an illusion, perhaps. Just like seeing different waves in the ocean and forgetting that they're part of the same ocean. We are all connected beneath the surface of this illusion. And I'm going to explain how I believe we're all connected. Because I think we say that, we say, oh, we're all connected. We all come from the same place. I mean, if you entertain the Big Bang Theory, and then some. So this understanding removes the desperation that so often contaminates our search for companionship. Those who can find happiness walking alone don't reject friendship. So this is not saying that friendship, we're closed for business. We don't have our right protect switch on our SD cards that says no new information, no new people. Okay? Because we say if it presents itself under the right terms with the right energy, potentially in the realm of synchronicity, well, the person that has learned to walk alone, they accept it. They simply don't cling to it or depend on it in order to feel fulfilled. Make sense? So when you see through the illusion of separateness, and this is challenging because we all think that we're special. I mean, we're kind of taught that we were special. But when we see through the illusion of separateness, something amazing happens. I love the word amazing. Something amazing happens. You begin to realize that the belief in being a distinct, isolated version of human, isolated self, is what creates the feeling of emptiness in the first place that makes you think that you need something from the outside. Think that. Think about that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. The idea that you're separate and unique is where the void and the lack comes from, the emptiness in the first place. The man who walks alone or the woman who walks alone sees that our experience of consciousness. So I don't know what your thought is of consciousness, but we know that consciousness does not originate in the brain. But our experience of consciousness isn't something that takes place on some sort of personal property that you own. Consciousness. Right? It's shared. It's shared in a field that we all interface with at varying levels of awareness. What I'm saying now is that we are all connected because we are all individually interacting and interfacing energetically in the same field, and that would be the field of consciousness. It sits in between you and I, but it connects us. Some operate with closed perception, while others operate with open and curious awareness. But all of us, this is what I'm entertaining, and I'm not stuck on it, but I think it's cool. All of us draw from the same source, don't we? Do you agree with that? And once you truly entertain that consciousness itself is what connects us all, you can move differently from that point. You experience a relaxed confidence that comes from knowing that you were never and will never be alone because we are connected by the field of consciousness. I'm interfacing with the field of consciousness right now, and that connects me to all of you. Isn't that interesting? And it's interesting to note that this awareness, if you're enjoying that with me right now, and confident state of not needing, what it does to you, you didn't know this because you didn't do it because of this, but it makes you magnetic and attractive. Not intentionally, because it wasn't your intention, but because your feeling of wholeness radiates what others are still blindly searching for. You start to become the person that people want to be around, and you didn't even know it. Why? Because you don't need, and that's attractive. That's attractive. Remember, we're all interfacing. You can feel people's energy, and that might show up as confidence or just not needing. So, those still caught in the illusion of seeking validation, joy, and fulfillment outside of themselves are drawn towards the calm certainty of the person that has learned to walk alone and be whole. Not that you don't need friends, my friends. I'm not saying that. I'm not devaluing a good friend. I think I did a pretty good job of sharing what I think a good friend means, but that you're not alone. But simply sharing space with someone who walks in that knowing, you begin to feel good too. So it's attractive to see somebody like this. And when you start to interface with them, they almost pay it forward and you learn to do it too. So if you ever have a great, great friend and you feel so solid in it that you feel like you don't need any good friends anymore, it's kind of like you're walking alone. It's like you've been granted that power. It becomes a kind of like a pay it forward movement, which I think is super cool, not through words or teaching, but just through mere presence, without needing or desiring anything or anyone to become whole yourself. One person remembering their connection, and I hope that that's you today. One person remembering their connection reminds others of their own. That's the pay it forward. And the cycle continues, expanding, expanding awareness outward, one friendship at a time. Does that make sense to you? Love to get some feedback on that. It's easier said than done, but it's better done than said. Easier said than done, better done than said to learn how to walk alone. Hey, great morning, Kathy Mitchell. Great morning, Pixel Floyd and Jar. Love these names. People who don't need anyone but appreciate everyone. I like that. I try to be that in the mirror. Can you see that those who walk alone in happiness attract and inspires others like them? Not by needing friends and not trying to find them makes them attractive. You not only attract new friends, but you attract quality friends. So if you look around right now and you don't feel like you have quality friends and you're kind of sucking your thumb about that, become one. Become one. And it starts by just learning to walk alone. Now, I want to give you a warning. A big fun part of my book is where I entertain this idea that I think I made up called the flow burglar. So, this is a flow burglar warning for those of you that decide today to begin the idea and entertain walking alone and being happy without needing. So, learning to walk alone takes praction, and that is where practice and action take place in the same place. And that's the practice of being in action. So you're not going to be good at this at first. So give yourself a break. Take a chill on that. You might doubt yourself. You might, experience that your conditioning may be trying to persuade you back to that state of needing others to find happiness. Like, what are you doing, silly rabbit? Tricks are for kids, right? You can't do this alone. God, we tell people you can't do this alone. Of course you could do this alone. It's nice when you don't have to, but of course you can. Fall in love with your decision to walk alone in confidence and consider it some sort of a vacation or like a friendship fast. Take a fast in the realm of friendship, right? But I just want you to know that you become attractive to a different type of person. We call them flow burglars. So beware of flow burglars. Flow burglars, in case you didn't know, are individuals from the extreme other side of your new awareness. You're a threat to them. They represent those who think that their job in this planet, it makes them feel whole, right? Sometimes we're doing negative things and thinking that it feels whole because it's elevating us in some way. Flow burglars are individuals from the extreme other side, and they represent those that think that their job is to stop you from doing something foolish. They have a good intention. If somebody's trying to cramp your style, they're just they think that they're like serving you by saying, "Don't be a fool." They believe that the idea of straying from the herd and walking on your own is stupid and it's a dumb idea. So have compassion for these people, right? When you spot them, express compassion and forgiveness for them. Why? They know not what they do. They hate because they ain't, right? They hate you because they ain't you. They don't know that. They actually envy you in reality. So you can take it as a compliment if somebody tries to knock you down. They actually envy you, but they also fear you. And that's where the compassion can come in. As your decision to stray from the herd, to stray from the pack, threatens and sheds light on the reality that they don't have the courage to do it themselves. Make sense? So express forgiveness and compassion for the flow burglars, and they will eventually, here's the win, not the intention, but they will eventually see the beautiful light of truth and most likely follow it because it's logical and it's probably what they want. They just don't know it's possible. They need your help more than anyone else that you meet. So have compassion for the flow burglars. Don't knock them down because they tried to knock you down. Take it as a compliment and understand why they're doing that. See, you'll see the same thing in business, by the way. For those of you that are entrepreneurs and you're trying to grow your Substack or grow your podcast or your business or your products and your services, you're going to see the same thing happen. The professional who radiates that calm confidence, and that could come from just a love and knowing that you know that whatever it is that you are writing or serving is a very, very high value idea for other people. You know that it helps because you've experienced it yourself. So you have that calm confidence, and that's that person that doesn't chase or force sales. They don't chase clients or force anything upon people, right? They become irresistibly attractive because of that. And I think you know about that. What's unattractive is when somebody just makes this assumption that you need them or you need what they have to offer. People are drawn to someone that knows their own value because it makes them feel safe, right? If you are talking about something that you do that I kind of like in a hiding place in my mind, know I need, but you're not talking about it as if I need it. It makes me feel safe to know that you know that it's a good thing and I can decide it on my own. So in business, we know that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You've heard that a million times. But what you can do in business, just like we said by walking alone, what you can do is you can salt their oats. So there is a sales component to business, but it's not the sales that you grew up on. It's salting their oats. You can bring them to water, but you can't make them drink, but you can salt their oats. And you know how you salt their oats? You salt their oats with your confidence and your state of not needing them to pull the trigger until it's right for them. That's attractive. That's the kind of person that I will, if I wake up one day and I'm ready to do business or sign up with someone, a coach or something like that, I'm going to sign up with that person. So that space where they know that they have found the right person, the product and the service within the locus of control, right? They still have the locus of control to decide when, and there's no persuasion. Whether it's in friendship, love, or business, you know, needlessness, I'm sorry, neediness and desperation repels people, and grounded authenticity and needlessness attracts people. You become attractive, and when the client candidate, the person that you kind of know in your heart you can help, just like a friend, when that candidate is ready, right? And they wake up and they have that come to Jesus moment and that fierce urgency of now, it's time, it's my time. They're going to let you know and nobody else. So there's a little bit of a double-edged sword there because another thing that can happen in that space is you could actually take what I've just shared with you and manipulate people. So be careful of that. It's not a perfect science. Great morning, Dimitri. Is that my Dimitri from Arcana? I know it, Dimitri. Is that you, my friend? Great morning, Dr. Sharon. Great morning, everybody. So I want to close with this. I have this thought, and this is one that I might read twice, and I might encourage you to write it down, not to absorb and call truth and put an exclamation point, but just to think about it. Remember, what I'm looking to do is offer you the opportunity to think in a world that's thinking for you. Here it is. Great morning, Dr. Sharon. Is that my Dr. Sharon from my coaching world? I'm always trying to find out if because I see the familiar names and I'm wondering who you guys are. All right, here it is. Maybe one of my favorite words. Hey, it is you, Dr. Sharon. Good to see you. Maybe the highest form of friendship, the highest form of friendship isn't about finding the right people. Maybe it's about becoming the kind of person that the right people find. So I want to say that again. Maybe the highest form of friendship isn't about finding the right people at all. And maybe it's about becoming the kind of person that the right people find. I just think that's delicious. Make sense? So I'm going to leave you with a question and you can kind of contemplate that. And maybe I'll hang out just for a couple of minutes because it's time for me to go for a walk with my lovely wife. This is our lives are so busy right now with dogs and kids and sports and all kinds of stuff. We don't have date nights, my wife and I. We have date mornings. So now is our first, we have several. Today is our date morning, and we go for this beautiful walk out in nature with our dog, our crazy dog, and tire him out. So I'm going to go do that right now. But I'm going to leave you with this question. What does being your own best friend look like to you? What does being your own best friend look like to you? And how do you nurture the friendships that truly matter in your life? Maybe that's what you needed to hear today. Maybe. Maybe. Because when I look in the mirror today, I'm going to look in the mirror and say, what is it that I need to do today to be the kind of person that the right kind of people will be attracted to? Now, I have to check myself, and I'll run the interface response system on that, and I'll say, what else might be true? Are you doing this with a pure intention, or are you doing this to attract people? Because I mean, a lot of the self-attractive work that we do in the gym and with our eating and our knowledge and all of that stuff is to become attractive. Because remember, there's something called natural selection taking place, where only the strong survive. So we're all trying to acquire what Donald Hoffman calls fitness points. We're all trying to increase our value. So you got to check yourself on that and just come back to yourself, almost like transcendental meditation. Transcend your desire and come back to yourself and just say, can I walk alone as this person today and not have to judge whether or not I had a good day or I'm having a good life or I'm whole by the end of the day by what others thought? By what others thought. If I don't get any feedback today from outside forces that say that I did a good job, can I still say that I did a good job? Just between me and me. So love and appreciate you. Let me see what we got. It does make sense, Kalpana says. Kathy says, be the type of person that you want to attract. Exactly. Exactly. Says, if anybody has any insights or questions that you want to share, I have a couple more minutes. I definitely loved what Nanette said. And be yourself, be free, Juan says. George. Yeah. Be yourself, be free. And by being yourself, because I've learned at times, or I've caught myself, Juan, saying, "I'm just gonna be myself." And sometimes I catch myself kind of making that my brand that I think people will like. You know what I like about JC the Dragon? You know what I like about his podcast? He just tells it like it is. He's just himself. And you know, the other danger of that is, and I've fallen prey to this many times, is where I'll say, "Hey, this is me. Take it or leave it." Why do we have to say that? Why do I have to say, take it or leave it? And why can't I just end by saying, this is me? And that's okay. Great morning, Margaret. Margaret, I think Margaret is somebody that I'm going to maybe do a podcast with. So, in any case, love and appreciate you all. Florida heartbeat. Love and appreciate you all. Remember something, the highest form of self actualization is when you embrace this jacuzzi experience, this place where you're making insights, you're becoming aware, and you're in the know. And you don't just go out and let it wash away and get a knuckle sandwich from life. You go to the next level, and the highest form of self actualization is by paying it forward and sharing this concept, sharing this podcast, sharing this Substack, or just sharing it from your heart. Something, hey, you don't have to accept this, but this is something that I heard today, and I just want to share it. You'll see that that's how you will take ownership of it. But if you learn something today, give it away because that's how it's going to stay. So have a nice day, and we'll see you next time. Love and appreciate you. Bye bye now.